Welcome to Out with Dan, the podcast that spotlights and examines the voices of LGBTQ+ authors, characters, and our allies. Together, we lift our voices and we tell our stories. I'm Dan White. Join me as I chat with this week's author. Hello and welcome back to Out with Dan. Today I'm excited to talk to Lev AC Rosen about MIRAGE City. Hi, Lev.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Oh, I'm so excited. I was telling Lev just before we started recording that it really feels like going home when I get a new Evander Mills story, because I feel like I know the characters and I feel like they're my friends, and I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to make sure, I feel like I've said this on your show before, but I always try to make sure that even though it's really sad, that there's a warmth in the community there. So being able to come back to these people, this community, hopefully does feel warm. So I like to hear that.
Yes, it does indeed. And I think I try not to do this, but I feel like there's so many things in this book that really relate to my personal life. And that's always a good thing, because, you feel a connection, you feel some things I feel positively about, and some things I'm like, well, maybe I could have made a better choice in other things. So how about start us off with an overview of what MIRAGE City is about?
Yeah, sure. This might get a little spoilery. It is the fourth in a series. But Andy, he's been working in San Francisco for a while. At this point, he has sort of redeemed himself with the queer community there. It's 1950s, 1953 we're up to, I believe. And a client walks in, a very prim and proper lady who is a member of the Mattachine Society, which was a real gay rights organization back then. And they really did have a split in 1952-53, where the founders were essentially ousted from the Mattachine Society. And the new version of it was very into the idea of conformity, the idea that there was nothing different about being queer except the desire. Whereas the founders felt that, and it's interesting, they really fell apart over this one word. I think it was, now I'm not remembering the one word. I'm pretty sure it was society. No, it was culture. It was culture. The idea of queer people having their own culture was what the founders believed. And the people who ousted them, the now Mattachine, really felt that was not true. That people, that drag queens or female impersonators, or anyone who essentially behaved outside of gender norms, that was a whole other psychological issue that had nothing to do with sexuality, and it should be frowned upon, and it made the movement look bad and stuff like that. So there's this division, and this woman, Myrtle, comes to Andy, and she says, a few people have gone missing, and they were outspoken against the founders. Can you please find them? And it's a couple of men and one woman who Myrtle clearly has some attachment to. And Andy takes a case, and he has to go to the Mattachine Society meetings, which involves code words, and this was all real stuff that happened. They were very secretive. And he eventually finds out that the two men left town with a gay motorcycle gang. Then they went back to LA. They went down to LA. So Andy follows them down to LA, which is the city where he grew up, where his mother still lives. And he is looking for this motorcycle gang, these missing men. He talks to the Mattachine Society there, which is different than the one in San Francisco. They're a little more Hollywood, let's say. He eventually meets this motorcycle gang. And of course, he bumps into his mother, who is working at a psychiatric clinic. And yeah, that's the case, looking for these missing people in LA. And most of the book is in LA, and I got to, take him out of this place where he was getting comfortable and bring him somewhere where he really wasn't comfortable. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't want to get really spoilery, but that's
I'll
what
do that. Just kidding. So,
it
so one of the things that I sort of want to talk about discuss a little bit is um, about me, because it's all about me, not you, Lev. Sorry. No,
Hey, I love it.
so when we meet Myrtle on the page, what I realized is Myrtle was exactly who I was early on in my adult life.
Me
I
too.
believed I believed that if the Dykes on Bikes and the drag queens did not lead the gay pride parade, but then the people who were in a suit and a tie should lead the gay pride parade, we would have a lot more acceptance. And what I realize is by reading Myrtle and re-examining my past as well, I find how very short-sighted. It isn't the conformist that changed the world. It's those who get out and say, I'm not going to take this anymore, who changed the world. And I think that as I've grown up and grown older, I've become much more vocal. But my big thing is about inclusivity, which the founders of the Mattachine Society were actually radical fairies, which I find to be so funny that we go from the radical fairies wanting to include everyone in the rainbow to the button down people who want to exclude the rainbow. And I was like, wow, I think it goes maybe for me, it was sort of like, okay, you got to examine your role in history and which lane were you in and decide whether that's the lane you want to remain in or do you want to broaden your horizon. So I love the fact that with characters, you sort of get to explore that exact same thing as an author.
Yeah, no, and in high school, when I came out in high school, I was very Mattachine in my outlook. I was like, I'm going to be as normal as possible in many ways, or at the very least, I'm going to be as non-stereotypical as possible in many ways, let's say. And I'm going to defy people's thoughts of what I'm supposed to be because I felt like people were telling me I'm supposed to be this, and it was a different time. Just last week.
For me too. Mine was week before last.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Here we are, just a pair of teenagers. So I definitely was reacting to that and this idea that I was supposed to be sort of a flaming queen by trying to not be that. But looking back on it, and being a teenager is all about sort of trying on personas, and so. But looking back on it, it's limiting when you start thinking about your sexuality with these labels, instead of being like, oh, this is the right way to be gay. And, it took me a while to figure out that was nonsense. And that's why I write YA too, where I try to emphasize that there's no right way to be gay. But the Mattachine mentality, I understand it. I 100% understand it. And, it's interesting you talk about like who made history. The first gay rights protest in front of the White House was the Mattachine Society in 1965, 4 years before Stonewall. They all wore suits. The women wore dresses. They wore sunglasses to protect themselves. And they were protesting for gay rights, I think in Cuba. It was very strange. Yeah. But they were like, they had rules about how to dress for this protest. It was very like, we are going to represent ourselves in the best possible light. And as happens in the book, they had like people like psychiatrists in to talk about how homosexuality was normal and what scenarios it was normal in. And like the way that, and psychiatry and their treatment of homosexuality is in the book too. The way that those shrinks often looked at homosexuality the positive way was that it was sad, but it was almost like a disability. I think in the book he says, the shrink at the meeting that all these Mattachine people politely clap at says something to the effect of like, well, provided it isn't this, or this, then it's really just the same as being born blind, and they shouldn't be excluded from society. They should be accepted, and pitied is the underlying like, and that is sort of what Mattachine was like into. It's it's really interesting. And then you look at the founders who went on to found One Magazine, also in the book. And I worked really hard not to put any historical figures in the book because I know this this book is for many people the first time they're encountering these aspects of queer history, and I don't want to take real historical figures and like introduce them with this mystery. So those folks really went on to do one institute. Is still around today.
Yeah.
And it's mentioned in the book, but they in 1953 had a cover of their magazine, One Magazine, gay marriage, big letters. Like we've been talking about this stuff forever. They've been doing all kinds of radical activism. They were shut down by the FBI. They were tapped, all this stuff. And then, of course, on the third hand, we have the motorcycle gang, who is based on a real gay motorcycle gang that was founded in 1954, the Satyrs. Mine are the Bacchanals, because I wanted to make everyone up. But yeah, so there are all these gay rights organizations that were approaching gay rights in different ways. And I loved being able to play with that, especially in the context of a mystery.
Well, and it works out well. I mean, it's a great history lesson for anybody who likes history. It's a historical novel, but it isn't a preachy novel. I mean, you just share honest things that happened to us in the past, and some of these things are still going on. I mean, it's frightening to think that the more things change, the more they might stay the same in some ways, and that's frustrating for me, especially at this age. I mean, at my tender age, I don't have to ask anybody for permission. I don't really care whether you like me or not. I mean, I hope people like me. I mean, honestly, I don't want to be that person, but at the same time, I'm not waiting around to live my life how somebody else dictates it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that for a lot of us growing up, there is, parents teach children right from wrong, but they also teach us how to, if we behave correctly, we don't get punished. And for most of us, punishment is pain. And so I think in a lot of ways, we still have this internalized homophobia because we're taught, oh, well, this might be wrong. You can't offend the neighbors. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it's always such a hard thing because, I mean, you want children to blossom and be who they are, but then we want to put down hard, concrete rules. And that's something that I saw so much in this book that, it was certainly an homage to our history where we've been, and hopefully we're getting better at it.
I hope so. I mean, it's interesting. I talk about the Mattachine Society in one of my YA books too, Camp. And I think something I always say is that we're not taught gay history because, in the same way we're taught family history, religious history, cultural history, because we're usually born straight people. And so we have to find our history. And I think because of that, we do tend to have the same arguments over and over and over again. Like we still have this today where it's like, what is it? No kink at Pride, I think is a variant on the same argument that we're having over and over and over and over and over again. Going back to the Victorian era earlier, I'm sure. So I don't know what the answer is to making that resolve. I don't know if there is one.
Well, obviously, I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm not sure there's an answer, but I will say that as an author, because you cross genres between young adult and adult, that you are making a difference, Lev, because you're giving someone the ability to see themselves at any age in their lives. So yes, we are making a difference, and I'm very proud of that. I really am, because it's important that we get a chance to see ourselves.
Yeah, and I think being able to see our history and making that more accessible, making that more common, is definitely going to mean that these arguments have more basis. These conflicts within the queer community have roots that we can all see. I don't know if that's going to result in like something resolving in any way, shape, or form in the queer community coming together in one perfect happy family. I don't think that necessarily is going to happen, but I do think it means we can look at our history and look at these arguments we've been having and say, hey, this is what happened in the past when we made these arguments. This is what came of that. How do we look at that and take from those lessons, essentially? How do we learn from history? And yeah, that being a part of that feels good, especially as someone who like discovered all this stuff. You know, it's exciting to be able to share it.
It is indeed. And you know, the Mattachine Society, I mean, and its original founders were really quite colorful characters. And
Yeah.
they lived long lives too, which is a nice thing. I mean, the majority of them lived well into their 70s. I even think some of them made it into their 80s. You know, and it's really nice because they stuck around, and in some ways they were sort of a thorn in the side of the new group that ran the society, because they wouldn't go away. But I love that. I mean, they were true activists. They didn't feel the need to go away, and when they were ostracized, they just started another group. And I'm like, don't sit in the corner licking your wounds. Get out there and keep working. So
absolutely, and that is sort of great that all these groups find their way to keep moving forward is great, I think.
Well, so when I knew Andy was coming home to LA, since I live in LA, I'm going to say coming home to LA, I sort of envisioned at the beginning a different outcome than we ended up getting. And I think I envisioned a simpler, happier, lovely, just everything works out. It works out the way it should work out, in all honesty, but I thought his homecoming would be a little different than it was. I really did love the conflict you gave for poor Andy and for his, what I would call homecoming, because he learned some things about life that he wouldn't have learned had he not come back to Los Angeles. So how much fun was that to write?
That was so much fun to write. And I hope over these 4 books, I've really sort of evolved Andy. So being able to take him home in this new state and like have him look at his home again and his mother again. And we're getting into spoiler territory. So,
we'll step away from that. So, because
I mean, I'm fine talking about it because it's fun to talk about. But then I feel like we should be like, we're going to put all like, this is going to be spoilers. So we'll wait until we announce that, and then we'll get into spoiler territory. But I think that being able to show how he's evolved and how he's changed and coming home, let him see how he's evolved and changed too, which is really exciting. He had a phone call with someone. Oh God, I think it's with LC, because he's calling home a lot. I couldn't leave my friends out.
No.
And he's talking about this motorcyclist who's also a gay cop, which is what he used to be. And Elsie, asks, is he cute? And they've had some tension, and Andy says, yeah, he's attractive. And Elsie's like, yeah, sure, figures. The one, like, you hate yourself so much, but look at the person you're attracted to. Look at who that is and who you are, and like what that means. Like, maybe you don't hate yourself as much as you think you do. And I think that conversation enables him to become who he is by the end of this book. And it's such a flippant throwaway line, but it meant a lot to me.
Well, but though, I think that's the beauty of the characters you've created, Lev. They are a found family for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think that once again, this book, Andy has made strides since the first book. I mean, he's almost a completely different person. But I do think that when he runs into Will, he sees what might have been for himself, and he seems to be a little wistful, but yet at the same time, he has to remind himself of where he is, and he's thankful for where he is in his life and in his relationship. And I thought that was a lot of fun for his own self-discovery.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted to do with Will. I wanted him to be this, oh, should I have been that moment? Oh, could I have done that? And like Andy being Andy immediately is like, oh, I did the being a gay cop thing wrong. Oh,
Right.
my sad boy Andy. But I think that being able to see that and see who he is now is empowering. It was so much fun to write Will and to like these moments with them where they're talking about being a gay cop. Oh my god, that was a delight to write. I think bikers in general, I had so much fun with.
And none of us wanted Will to ever put his shirt on. That
No, why would you want Will to put his shirt on? Why would you want any of the bikers to put their shirts on?
So I've actually known quite a few people who have been a satyr over the years.
I should have called you up.
Oh yes, I've known some people that rode with them for more than 40 years.
Oh man, I talked to a bunch of gay bikers, but I couldn't find a contact within the satyrs themselves. I talked to a bunch of people who knew them, and what I will say about gay bikers, especially as someone who like always thought bikers, I think I have a piece coming out in Crime Reads tomorrow or next week. I don't know. I don't know when this is going up, but there'll be a piece on Crime Reads about like bikers and bad boys, and so I was expecting them to be kind of like scary when I talked to them. I was really nervous. They are all such sweet men. They're like teddy bears, and yes, they're a little flirty and a little like outrageous and kinky, and they talk about sex stuff, but like that was just delightful because there's so much warmth that comes off of them. And like this biker club, these gay biker clubs are like big fraternities essentially, and of just like brotherhood and love. And yeah, it was really exciting to talk to these guys after a while because they were so kind.
I find them to be very easy to get along with. You know, they do over the years here in Los Angeles, they've raised quite a few dollars for different charities and stuff. And so I've known, like I said, quite a few of them who've ridden for years and years and years. And they are part of a family. I mean, that is their family. They take a vacation every summer to the mountains. They all go, and because it's a club and they are family, and they take vacations together. They have meetings together. They ride together. It's like, okay, you know, but it's there again, it's a found family.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, from everything I've learned, they were just really nice, loving guys who also were having a lot of fun sex. and like more power to them. It was 1954. Good on them. So it's just, yeah, I was surprised by that, especially going into it. I was like, ooh, I'm going to write these dark, bad boy biker gang. And they're going to like they're going to be like shooting people. Like I thought, you know, I was thinking Hell's Angels because I was going with noir archetypes. And then I spoke to all of them and I'm like, I can't do that. I cannot do that. Like these men are so kind. That's not what this was. That would not be an accurate history. And so I made them something a lot closer, I hope, to what they actually were, which was this really wonderful group. Like it makes me wish I rode a motorcycle, even though I find them terrifying. Makes me want to get on a death trap.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, trying to impress somebody, I did at one point in my life own the least ridden motorcycle in all of Los Angeles. In the 3 years I owned that bike, it rarely moved.
So. Okay, this is going online. There's going to be a video. I need you to post a photo of yourself with that motorcycle. Did you have the leather jacket?
Of course.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need that photo up.
I will definitely send that to you, and I will definitely put it online when our
okay. Yes, everyone watching this needs to see it. I think.
Yes, it was quite a thing. So you know, I was very delusional in thinking that that motorcycle would get me something it did not get me. So, but hey, look, sometimes you got to shoot for a dream and hope it happens.
Absolutely. No judgment here. Oh,
Right.
yeah. No, I mean, they're cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
It is.
it is. I will say, I really thought I would ride it a lot more than I did. And I enjoyed it when I did go out riding, but I thought some of the people that I knew who rode a lot would invite me along with them, and that didn't happen. So, it happens. So about the same time I owned a motorcycle, I had a horrific bicycle accident that ended up in the hospital. So when I told my mom I wasn't riding the motorcycle very much, she's like, well, son, you couldn't stand up on a bicycle. What makes you think you can ride something that size? And I'm like, well, maybe you have a point there. Training wheels, Mom.
Yeah, no, if I had a bicycle accident, I would I don't know how to ride a bike, because when I was learning, I had this kind of horrific accident that involved me with the bicycle attached rolling down a hill over my, and I was like, you know what? I'm not cut out for this. This isn't happening. So I still don't know how to ride a bicycle much like a motorcycle.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but you also have to, you come to the realization that this several thousand-pound bike is under you, and if you're not careful, it will be on top of you. So I was like,
yeah.
So it's something else. Well, again, the book is called Mirage City. It's by Lev AC Rosen. It's absolutely wonderful. The fourth in the Evander Andy Mills series. Highly recommended.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you want to get into spoiler stuff?
Oh, we can get into whatever you want, Lev.
All right. I'm putting up the full spoiler warning here. If you haven't read the book, stop, come back later. But yeah, it's so funny to me that you were like, I was really expecting something happy, because I knew from the go where his mom worked. I've known for books where his mom worked.
Oh, no.
And honestly, the conversion therapy scene where he's watching, that to me is the most horrific thing I've ever written. So that was something I knew I wanted to do. I've been calling this book Motorcycles, Medicine, and Mommy Issues. So being able to get into that conversion therapy stuff and have it relate back to his mother, oh God, yeah, that was really gratifying. And I don't want to say fun, because it was horrifying, but it was oh yeah, this is what I'm gonna do, and I've known it for books.
That really is amazing, because I will tell you, I just didn't see it coming, which is always a nice thing. It's always wonderful to be surprised in a mystery when I can say I didn't see it coming. Somehow my little pie in the sky, I thought, well, he's going to come back, and he's going to come out to his mom, and she's going to love him and all this stuff. And that totally does not happen. And even our ending is not what I sort of thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew there was going to be a riff, but I think if I get to say this, I think that it's the best possible outcome for Andy's future.
Yeah.
Because, if you tied up the bow with a nice ribbon, Andy's future is going to be very, very different, and the conflict will be so much less. So you did the right thing.
Do you think the last line, the phone ringing, who do you think it is?
Well, I think one will assume it's his mom, but it doesn't have to be.
It could be a new case. There was a different ending where Andy died. I had a whole different ending, and they were like, because I thought this was going to be the last one, and maybe it will be based on how things go because of the publisher switch and a bunch of publishing nonsense. But the new publisher, I think, is invested. They've been really kind and welcoming, and I was afraid, when we were switching over, that they wouldn't be, because who gets in on a series book 4, it's a scary thing. So I was like, all right, if this is going to be the last one, let's go out with a boom, and I'll kill Andy. Yeah. And my editor and my agent were like, no, you want to hope there's going to be more books. They seem enthusiastic about the concept based on sales. So let's give it a different ending. And I think that let me have fun with that ending. And it is a moment where it's like, I think a lot of people will come to it very differently. But I hope it works for people. I hope it makes people cry.
I think it will. I really do think it will, because, even up to the last minute, we see Andy's hope, but we don't know whether his hope will be rewarded or not. And by
Yeah.
leaving it with this ending, I think what you do is you give us realism, because we all know in life that we can hope for whatever we want to hope for, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would, and had you killed off Andy, I'd be knocking on your door. You would not like this.
I mean, gay detective in the 1950s, him dying isn't, you want realism.
Well, yes, I think, that's what we see in book number 4. Andy's been up against some things in all the books, but in book number 4, we see the real truth about some people won't make it.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a fact of life. A lot of people did not make it. And this was very satisfying, though, with the conclusion of finding the lost person or the missing person. So that part was very satisfying. But yes, it could have certainly ended very differently.
Yeah. And I liked setting everything on fire, literally.
Well, and I like that. I mean, I do like that. And I found that, you found the voicing so easily, with the collection of bikers, and, you give us some realism with that. And then with Myrtle and her friends at the beginning, you see what some people feared and what some people didn't fear. And I think that was certainly realistic.
Yeah, it's so interesting reading all this history too. Mattachine history is, even though all these men left extensive, they did a lot of audio recordings, which I think are still on file at the Leather Archives, for the Mattachine, and I listened to a bunch of them, and they're contradictory. I read a book filled with them, with primary sources. And it's all kind of contradictory. So I had to sort of pick the bits of history that worked best for me. But it was really interesting reading about these guys and reading what they thought was happening. But you get to see what they were really afraid of. You get to see what they were really going up against. And that was exciting.
It was exciting to read it as well. So once again, the book is Mirage City. It's by Lev AC Rosen. It is absolutely magical and fabulous. Thank you again, Lev.
Thank you.
There it is.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Same here. I'll see you for book number 5.
I hope so. Knock on wood.
Yes, me too. So thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Out with Dan. You can find more information about this podcast and its host at OutWithDan.com, on Twitter at OutWithDan, and on Instagram and Facebook at GoOutWithDan. This podcast is hosted by Authors on the Air Global Radio Network, and the theme music is provided by bensound.com. Join us again soon for the next episode of Out with Dan.